Greetings everyone, and welcome to the Gathering Stone, a place to sit by the fire, take a load off, meet some new adventurers, and learn a little bit about drawing. Today's weary traveler is a brooding gnome barbarian, so let's watch how he was created from sketch to full color while I talk a little bit about the tools I use on a regular basis. Before we get into it, you should know that I'm not sponsored, nor is this a sponsored video for any of the following products. So for the quick and dirty, too long didn't watch crew, I sketch everything out on an A5 size sketchbook with a pencil or Bic ballpoint pen. Then transfer that sketch to an iPad Pro and bring it all to life via Procreate software with an Apple Pencil. That's it. Clean and simple. Now for anyone still hanging around, let's go into the how and why, starting with my sketchbook of choice, which I think is an important and personal decision for any tactile person, with a few things to take into consideration, so maybe my thoughts will help guide you. In one form or the other throughout my life, I've always had a sketchbook laying around for when the inspiration hit me, or if I ever felt the need to write down my thoughts and notes about something. But for the interest of saving time, let's start when I began to form a more professional relationship with a lifetime hobby, as the sketchbook was the quickest way for me to not only get ideas out of my head, but to practice, because I did not currently have the equipment or knowledge for digital media. Not to mention the upfront cost of such things. I think sketchbooks are probably the easiest form of personal artistic expression, from writing to drawing and painting. It's usually the place where everyone begins, paper and pencil or maybe crayons. With almost any size, shape, and texture available, they can travel with you anywhere, ready for your thoughts, observations, and imagination. For me especially, they have become a sort of physical media timeline where I have not only captured specific moments, but also my progress as an artist, from cringy beginnings to where I am now. But more specifically to the books I have settled on currently, I have my wife to thank, as before her homemade Christmas gift, I was mostly using Moleskine products, which can be a little expensive, but reliable nonetheless, as I've always preferred a more book-like experience versus the floppy, oversized traditional paper I was used to. Although both had their uses for me, as the smaller books were great for any sort of travel sketching and journaling, whereas the traditional style was better for practice. And by traditional, I mean 8.5 by 11 or larger paper size. Anyways, my wife has always been great at crafting homemade gifts for special occasions, and on one fateful birthday, she went out of her way to not only purchase a new sketchbook for me, but handcrafted a cover for this book using polymer clay to shape a face inspired by Groot from the Guardians of the Galaxy. Pretty awesome, I know. But aside from the sentimentality and beautiful cover, what surprised me most was how much I loved using the book, considering she purchased it from a local grocery store. It was an A5 sized 128 sheet, 256 paged paperback with a little bite to ensure a texture that was satisfying to the touch, pencil drag, and pen roll. They were relatively inexpensive, and I've been using them exclusively for years. It just goes to show that you never know what is going to work for you until you start experimenting with different media. So I would say, if you're able to, go to a brick and mortar location that carries journals, sketchbooks, etc. Physically open them up to feel the paper and explore your options to find that special book which works for you. Because having that connection is only going to help you when it comes to staying motivated in the creative space. But also realistically, the only person that ever needs to see your mistakes or what you're jotting down and sketching is you. Moving on to the digital or pixelated side of things, this should be a little easier and less ambiguous to explain, but take my advice with a grain of salt. Keep in mind, this can be an upfront, expensive route to take if you are starting from scratch, as you will not only need software, but also something to draw on, unless you intend on using a mouse, which is entirely up to you. But any tablet should work so long as it is compatible with your computer. I used a Wacom Intuos Pro for many years without any problems, and I recommend their products. But an iPad could work just the same if you already have one, along with a stylus that is compatible as well. So, I think the two options to consider when choosing a software program come down to free or paid. Then if choosing to pay for the software, decide whether it's for professional or educational use. And if professional, I would research into what directly would make it a professional purchase. Is it to push your entrepreneurial endeavors? Or is it to get a job within a specific industry? If it's for a specific job, I would find out what programs they expect you to understand and go from there. From an entrepreneurial experience, you should probably use whatever will help create the most polished product you are hoping to sell. Now, from my limited experience, I can say that once you learn one illustrating program, a lot of them share similar features, and the bulk of knowledge is relatively interchangeable with a few exceptions. Personally, I started with Adobe Photoshop as, at the time, I was focused on a job in the animation industry and was told that taking a course on Photoshop was a great place to begin. Well, a lot has changed since then, and even though I'm grateful for everything I've learned through Photoshop, I'm happy to say that I've been able to strip away that subscription along with the constant use of a tablet taking up desk space. As on my journey, I've always tried to simplify my process and remove as much friction as possible within reason so that I can focus on other things that make me feel more productive. Once again, I have my wife to thank for this transition when she brought an iPad Pro into my life as a Christmas gift, and with it came access to a free app named Procreate. Now, I could draw directly on a screen with a very simplified program focused more on illustrating rather than photo editing, and I could bring it with me practically anywhere I was going, which opened up my workflow as I could chisel away at projects while sitting on the couch, a boat, on vacation, or whatever. The important thing for me was that I could get away from my computer chair and have less to think about while creating, on top of saving money with one less subscription fee. In the end, you should use whatever you enjoy using to keep that motivation going. These are just the things that I use. But either way, I hope this helps some of you out there who are maybe just beginning, or maybe at a crossroads with some decisions to make. That's it for this week's episode. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them below and I'll either reply or talk about them in the next video. So until then, thanks for watching. As always, I'm Benjamin Humphreys and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Good night.